The Queen's Christmas broadcast has always been more than just a festive tradition. For millions of people in Britain and across the world, it has long served as a quiet moment of reflection, reassurance, and continuity. Since King George V delivered the very first Christmas message by radio in 1932, each monarch has used those carefully chosen minutes to speak not just about the year gone by, but about values, stability, and family. By the time Queen Elizabeth II delivered her Christmas address in 2019, the speech had become one of the most closely watched moments in the royal calendar, not just for what was said, but for what was left unsaid. That year, the royal family was under immense strain. Publicly, the Queen's message appeared calm and composed, as always. She spoke of togetherness, reconciliation, and looking ahead with hope. But behind the scenes, tensions were quietly reaching breaking point. While Her Majesty never directly mentioned the growing rift with her grandson Prince Harry and his wife Meghan Markle, royal watchers would later argue that the message contained a subtle but unmistakable signal that something had fundamentally changed. The clue was not in the Queen's words, but on her desk. For years, the Christmas broadcast had included a carefully curated arrangement of family photographs placed within view of the camera. These images were never random. Every photograph was selected with intention, approved personally by the monarch, and positioned to reflect unity, continuity, and the line of succession. In 2018, following Prince Harry and Meghan's wedding, a photograph of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex on their wedding day had proudly featured among the display. It was widely seen as a sign of inclusion, a visual acknowledgement that Harry and Meghan were firmly part of the future of the monarchy. But in 2019, something was different. When Queen Elizabeth II sat down to record her message, the photograph of Harry, Meghan, and their newborn son Archie was nowhere to be seen. Instead, the desk featured images of Prince Charles, Camilla, Prince William, Kate, and their children, a clear emphasis on the direct line of succession. The Sussexes had vanished from the frame entirely. To the casual viewer, it may have gone unnoticed. But to those who understand the monarchy's language of symbolism, the absence spoke volumes. Royal author Tina Brown would later describe the moment as one of quiet but deliberate exclusion. In her book Palace Papers, she wrote that the Sussexes had been edited out, likening the removal of their image to the way disgraced figures were erased from official photographs in authoritarian regimes. It was a striking comparison, but one that captured the severity of the gesture. This was not an oversight. It was a message. According to Brown, Prince William immediately recognized what the omission would mean to his younger brother. At the time, Harry was in Canada with Meghan, having stepped back from royal duties and skipped the family's traditional Christmas gathering at Sandringham. William, who had grown up alongside Harry and understood his emotional triggers better than anyone, reportedly knew exactly how his brother would react. He knew his brother well enough to predict a Category 5 tantrum brewing, Brown wrote. The phrase Category 5 tantrum was dramatic, but it reflected the intensity of the emotions William expected to follow. Harry had always been deeply sensitive to perceived slights, particularly when they involved questions of status, relevance, or belonging within the family. To be visually erased from the Queen's most symbolic annual address would not just sting, it would feel like a public demotion. By late 2019, Harry and Meghan were already drifting away from the royal centre. Since their wedding the year before, they had grown increasingly frustrated with the constraints of royal life. Meghan, in particular, had been vocal behind closed doors about her desire to modernise the institution, to operate with greater independence, and to pursue causes in a way that felt more authentic to her. Together, the Sussexes began exploring what they saw as a half-in, half-out role, one that would allow them to retain royal status while earning independent income and spending significant time abroad. In October 2019, the couple announced they would be taking an extended break from royal duties for what they described as much-needed family time. Soon after, Kensington Palace confirmed that Harry and Meghan were in Canada. They chose not to attend the Queen's annual Christmas celebrations at Sandringham, instead spending the holidays in Vancouver with Meghan's mother, Doria Ragland. Publicly, it was framed as a quiet retreat. Privately, it was anything but. According to Tina Brown, the Sussexes' so-called sabbatical quickly turned into what she described as a working vacation, far from simply resting. Harry and Meghan were allegedly using their time away from the UK to refine a long-term exit strategy. While staying at Mille Fleurs, a $14 million waterfront mansion on Vancouver Island, they reportedly began laying the groundwork for what would soon become known as Megxit. Meghan is said to have contacted her former publicist, Keller Thomas, asking her to map out a new Sussex royal foundation. At the same time, she allegedly asked the designer behind her naughty funk lifestyle blog, The TIG, to quietly develop the digital identity for their future brand as part-time royals. These preparations were happening months before the public announcement, even as the palace remained largely unaware of the full scope of the couple's intentions. According to royal expert Tom Bauer, Harry and Meghan even went as far as applying for trademarks under the Sussex royal name, covering everything from clothing and stationery to emotional support services. Crucially, all of this was done before the Queen had formally granted permission for the Sussex royal brand to be used in such a commercial way. At the same time, the royal family was dealing with another crisis entirely. Prince Andrew's disastrous Newsnight interview with Emily Maitlis, in which he attempted to explain his friendship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, had plunged the monarchy into scandal. Public outrage was intense, and pressure mounted for Andrew to step back from public life. The Queen was facing unrest on multiple fronts, and according to insiders, she knew decisive action was needed. By Christmas morning 2019, the cracks were no longer subtle. Royal biographer Tom Bauer later wrote that the Queen believed she had to take control. The irritants, as he described them, particularly Andrew and Harry, would be dealt with sooner rather than later. While the Queen made no direct mention of either her son or her grandson in her address, the visual symbolism did the talking. The subtext was all in the flotilla of carefully arranged family photographs positioned on her writing desk, Tina Brown wrote. According to Brown, the Queen personally reviewed the images before recording the broadcast. Quoting royal author Christopher Anderson, she revealed that Elizabeth examined the photos and approved them all, except one. When her eyes landed on the portrait of Harry, Meghan, and baby Archie, she reportedly paused before saying, "That one? I suppose we don't need that one." The photograph was removed. Prince William, Brown wrote, was appalled when he noticed the absence. He understood instantly what it signified and what it would trigger. The Sussexes' exclusion was not only symbolic, it was deeply personal, and William knew the fallout would be severe. Just weeks later, on January 7, 2020, Harry and Meghan made their move. In a statement posted to Instagram, they announced their decision to step down as senior working royals. After many months of reflection and internal discussions, they said, they intended to carve out a progressive new role within the institution. They plan to become financially independent while continuing to support the Queen and divide their time between the UK and North America. The announcement sent shockwaves through the palace and around the world. Within days, the Queen summoned Prince Harry, Prince William, and Prince Charles to Sandringham for a crisis meeting to discuss the future of the monarchy. The press dubbed it the Sandringham Summit, as media vans and satellite trucks descended on the quiet Norfolk estate. It was an extraordinary moment, a public acknowledgement that the royal family was facing an internal rupture, unlike anything seen in decades. After the meeting, the Queen released an unprecedented statement praising the constructive discussions and expressing support for Harry and Meghan's desire to create a new life as a young family. But the reality was more complex. Their hope for a half-in, half-out role was firmly rejected. Buckingham Palace later confirmed that the Sussexes would step back from royal duties entirely and would no longer formally represent the Queen. They would also stop using their HRH titles. The decision marked the end of an era. Looking back, many royal watchers now see the Queen's 2019 Christmas broadcast as a quiet turning point, the moment when the monarchy signalled, without words, that Harry and Meghan's position within the institution had fundamentally changed. Alongside Harry, Prince Andrew was also notably absent from the photo display, reinforcing the idea that the Queen was drawing a clear line. What appeared to be a simple festive message was, in reality, a carefully choreographed act of royal communication. And Prince William, watching from within the family, knew exactly what it meant, and exactly how his brother would respond. The Category 5 storm was coming.